Welcome to this sizzling episode of the Maza's Musings podcast, where the sports takes are, well, no, not particularly hot, but they will be interesting because, of course, Greg Cameron always makes things interesting. It also makes things long. This is another long episode that always tends to happen when I get together with Greg to talk sports, but that's A-okay. You know what else is A-okay? Meghan's Joke of the Week.
And now it's time for Meghan's
Cuckoo bananas, joke.
Hi, silly Swiftie fan Meghan.
Hi.
Do you have a joke for us?
Yes.
Okay, let's hear it.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
A-B.
A-B who?
A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y and Z.
Oh my goodness. So you know your ABCs?
Cuckoo.
Next time should I sing with you?
Cuckoo. Cuckoo.
Okay, say goodnight.
Good night.
All right. Well, before we get into our not quite a marathon, we've done the marathon before, but this is not a marathon episode. More like the half marathon, where Greg and I are talking New England sports. We're going to have our Maza's Mickey Minute. I was going to keep this short, but there's a really rocking bit of news that I'm really excited to share.
Donald, wake up! It's showtime! Don't forget the orchestra!
Ah, there you are. And just in time.
Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
For those of you standing, please hold on to the handrails throughout our journey and stay clear of the doors.
Hang on to them hats and glasses, cause this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness. And here we go!
All right, well, I know that I've been a little bit in the minority here, but I am super stoked for what is going to be happening with Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. We are going to have a Muppet transformed Rock and Roller Coaster, and we got some more information from Disney on what that is going to be all about. This is from the Disney Parks blog. They say, the Electric Mayhem are headlining their biggest Hollywood concert ever. Anyone who's anyone is in attendance to witness Animal, Dr. Teeth, and the rest of his groove-tastic group rock the house down. There's just one little problem. The band is nowhere to be found. Across town at G-Force Records, we're treated to a VIP tour of the legendary rock and roll recording studio. Things might look a little different around this Hollywood institution, as the label was recently came under new management, the Muppets. We're happy to say that our colorful crew has landed some new digs with just a little help from Scooter's uncle, real estate tycoon and owner of the Muppet Theater, J.P. Gross. He really puts the G in G-Force. Just wait until you see how they've made these hallowed halls their own, creating a perfect place to make sweet, sweet Muppet music together. For fans of that big, really big, hilariously big guitar, you'll be stoked to know that the newest residents of Rock and Roller Coaster are putting their own spin on that ruby red paint job. A vibrant and psychedelic new design will grace the bottom of the guitar, inspired by a classic Muppet car paint job, and the piano motif at the base will feature a golden key as a nod to a certain far-out band leader. With your VIP passes, you'll be welcomed inside the recording studio where, wouldn't you know it, you'll find the Electric Mayhem are cranking out some seriously rockin' tunes. Along with the finest audio engineers, all Penguins of course, we'll see Scooter doing his best to convince Electric Mayhem to stop jamming and to get to their increasingly restless fans. But will it be enough to get the band across town and on stage on time? With the helps from our friends at Muppet Labs and a very fast limousine, we'll take a twisting, turning, and screamingly fun road trip across Hollywood to reach the concert in time. The iconic scenery and landmarks of Tinseltown will feature a Muppet twist. And throughout the journey, you'll hear the Electric Mayhem playing some of the most iconic rockin' hits in your ears to keep the music and adrenaline pumping. I'm sure G-Force Records will release a concert set list soon enough. This is hitting all the right notes for me. Bad pun, I know, but I'm excited about this. I'd been excited about the concept in the first place. This feels like, they're going to be, kind of keeping some of the old references, at least referencing the old ride, with keeping the G-Force Records. And basically this is new ownership. So I'm excited how this concept is basically, they're not just trying to completely replace Rock and Roller Coaster. It's what would happen if the Muppets took over Rock and Roller Coaster, which is so much like a thing, and it really is a big part of what the Muppet conversation has been. Like so many times it's just like, okay, let's recast a movie, but put the Muppets in it, that kind of thing. So anyway, super stoked about this. Maybe I'm still in the minority. I hope that this excites some other people a little bit more. And you know what else is super exciting? Going to Walt Disney World and letting We Do Travel Right help you get there. That's because We Do Travel Right will give you the one-on-one service of an agent, but that agent has the power of a team behind them, including the dining team. So you'll be able to get your park tickets, those hard to get dining reservations. You'll have someone who will help you navigate the parks and someone who will listen to you and figure out exactly what you and your family need for your trip and really kind of make sure that you have the trip that best fits you and your family. And the best part is it's all free. That's right. You do not pay. Ooh, I'm having trouble today. You do not pay We Do Travel Right anything to use their services. That's because Disney or Universal or cruise lines or all-inclusives, they pay We Do Travel Right for you because they build the cost of an agent into their pricing. So you're already paying for the agent, whether you use one or not. So doesn't it just make sense to use the agent? So go to WeDoTravelRight.com/Maza. That's WeDoTravelRight.com/MAZA and get your next magical vacation started today.
Well, I can't do any more damage around this popsicle stand.
So long.
See you real soon.
All right, and we're back. And Greg, we've managed to whittle down from like 4.5-hour marathons to the last one was, I think, about 2 hours. Do you think that we can, actually get everything that we want to talk about in a bite-sized chunk this time, or are we setting ourselves up for another long night?
For a long time, I've been cautioned against, putting horses before carts and counting chickens before they're hatched. But I have faith. I think we are good enough. We are smart enough. And doggone it, at least I'm a little organized. This is the first time I've ever really prepared for something. I'm sure my high school teachers, if they are listening to this, which I don't know why they would, but if they are, they're probably a little bit of like proud, but also ashamed. I'm sure the Germans have a word for this, but I think we can do a yeoman's work here on trying to talk about all of the things we want to talk about quickly, and not burn the midnight oil here.
All righty. Well, and I thought you were going to go with, and doggone it, people like me. I was waiting for that. I thought you were setting that up, and that would have been the second time that somebody had made that reference today, and I was actually very excited about that. But anyway,
wow, some Stuart Smalley fans at the reminder. Wow,
yeah. Oh, so I, as prepared as you are today, admittedly, I am not. This has been kind of a crazy week, and today was actually the. For those who aren't in the area, the Hampden County Sheriff's cookout is like one of the big political things of the year. My former boss, G. Michael Dobbs, used to call it a political mosh pit.
Okay.
So we were there with the Reminder Publishing podcast. So that reminds me. So anybody who is local and wants to listen to that, we'll have a lot of great interviews for that. So it's been a while since I've plugged that. But anyway,
that was such a professional plug too. Well done.
But yeah, so we were there in a tent in the rain, interviewing either politicians or political hopefuls from throughout Western Massachusetts. So it was a good time, but it was also a bit nuts, and took away some time that normally I might be able to steal away to prepare. Like I had to do things earlier this morning and such so that I was caught up in time to be able to do this. So I will readily admit I'm not as prepared as I normally would be. So I'm begging everybody's forgiveness in advance.
Well, as your guest in your podcast house, I forgive you.
Well, thank you. It's much appreciated. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through all of the Boston sports or New England sports first. And since I'm wearing a New England Patriots shirt, that is where we're going to start. That's the arbitrary way that I've just decided that we're going to start this episode.
Love it. I was prepared. I was prepared for anything. I was even prepared for the Connecticut Sun. I won't lie to you. I was.
Well, so we are going to start off with three things that we're encouraged by. We'll start off positive here. Three things that you are encouraged by with what you've seen from the New England Patriots so far, off season into preseason, and with the season coming up. I'll give you first honors with the first thing.
Beautiful. I'm going to say the first thing that has been encouraging to me, this draft class kind of rules, right? I think Campbell is competent at left tackle. I mean, the pass blocking, it's going to get there. It's him as a run blocker is insane. He has sort of that, like one of those qualities of like in the Blindside movie, how like he just blocks upfield for yards and yards and yards. And I can't remember the last Patriots tackle that just had that kind of mentality of like, oh no, I'm going to hit this guy into next week. Especially at tackle. They've had so many issues at tackle, and it's nice to find somebody who can admirably do the job. That is no disrespect to a DeMontre Jacobs or a Vidarian Lowe or any of these types, but it's just so nice to have like a class tackle at left tackle protecting Drake May's blindside. I think Travion Henderson is an absolute, and I put this in my notes in capital letters, a dog. DAWG. He's just, and like the question that I had, and this is maybe something that we can sort of delve into a little bit, is he the highest ceiling running back since Curtis Martin for this team?
Yeah, I think you could certainly make that argument at least. Yeah.
As a draftee, at least, I mean, because Corey Dillon was awesome too, but Corey Dillon wasn't drafted by the Patriots or by this organization. Like I tried to think of like great running backs that they had drafted. You know, I mean, Maroney in the first round, he was serviceable, but he certainly doesn't seem to have the skills that this kid has. And then you know, somebody like Sony Michel, who was certainly much more of a like pass catching back out of Georgia compared to the skills that Travion Henderson has. It seems like Henderson can do a little bit of everything out of the backfield, which is awesome. And that they have a guy with that kind of breakaway speed, it's incredible. I've liked some of what I've seen from Justin Wilson along the offensive line. I think it's nice to have somebody who can either be a left guard or a center and be competent there. It's going to take him a little longer, I think, than Campbell will to develop, but I think he's been really good. And the undrafted free agents here are really great. If we get into, I kind of in my spare time during my lunch hour today created a 53-man projection, and there are a couple of undrafted free agents that make certainly my roster if I'm the decision maker. I'm not Mike Vrabel. You know, breaking news: Mike Vrabel isn't on your podcast this evening, but
no, unfortunately not. Nor is Stretch, who I think is a pivotal role in that decision making.
And they just let Elliot Wolf be in the room. You know, somebody's got to be in the room where it happens, right? And then
don't tell that to the state legislature. Oh, that's another thing. Oh
boy. But I'll tell you, I really like Truman Jones. I really like Elijah Ponder, and I love Efton Chisholm III. I think Julian Edelman was on Tommy Curran's podcast last night, and they had asked him, who does Efton Chisholm III remind you of? And his answer was interesting. I think they had kind of asked that, sort of fishing for a like, oh, well, he reminds me of me. But I thought his answer of kind of comparing Chisholm to Danny Amendola was very illuminating, because I can see a little bit of that, of a guy who has that kind of speed, but also can do a lot of the crossing routes. And, you know, just hearing that sort of gave me visions of, well, you know, you've got Pop Douglas on one slot and Efton Chisholm on another. That could be interesting. We've seen this out of Josh McDaniels, you know, in the old Earhart Perkins offense, but who knows if that's what they're going to run too.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a world where both of those guys are major contributors. I don't see it in the same way as in Amendola and Edelman kind of thing, though, because I think the Amendola comp is really appropriate for Efton Chisholm, but if he's filling that role, it's a bad idea to have Pop Douglas trying to fill that Julian Edelman role. So I think they're both going to have roles on this team. And this kind of, this was something that I sent you a message about, you know, a couple days ago. It was just, is Efton Chisholm, is this real, or is this another Austin Carr? You know, is this some more fool's gold where, you know, this is a guy that we fall in love with in the preseason, and then they end up having to let him go. I know that they were trying to stash Carr on the practice squad, and the Saints grabbed him, I believe. And then that was basically it. Then he was, you know, he now he's basically a trivia question, you know? So, but I think that what we've seen and the amount of that he's been able to work his way up to even like getting some reps with the first unit says something more. It's not just, oh, hey, this guy is showing out in this preseason game against guys who are going to be selling insurance next week. He's done that. But then when he's gotten other opportunities, especially, you know, he's gotten some chances with some of the the joint practices and such, so not necessarily game action, but still competitive reps. So what I'm seeing from the team is an indication that they believe that there is something more here. So Efton Chisholm was actually my first encouraging thing, and I think I sent you this too. It might have been DraftKings or something like that, had a thing on the and this wouldn't actually even qualify because he wasn't drafted, but the Patriots, the player that the Patriots had drafted at wide receiver who has compiled the most fantasy points
in like the last 10
Berrios.
years.
Yeah, it's in the last 15 years. Braxton Berrios.
Yeah. Who we liked in that camp. We liked him in that camp. That was a weird camp because they had Demaryius Thomas too. They tried to do the same thing that you referenced with Austin Carr with Braxton Berrios, that they tried to sneak him onto the practice squad, and then Demaryius Thomas made the team, and that didn't last long. I think he got traded to the Jets. A week or two later?
Yeah.
And Thomas was good in that camp too. That's not I'm not disrespecting the dead or anything, but
yeah, no, I think that's the biggest thing here is how many guys are they going to carry? You look at he's forcing their hand a little bit.
He is,
when you think about it. I mean, because normally you're looking, okay, maybe you're carrying 6. But when you're looking at the way that this roster is constructed, there's a serious argument to be made, especially because he has been showing that he's willing to do the work on special teams, that, that maybe you carry 7, but we can get into that a little bit more later. But Efton Chisholm was my first up. It was nice to see. And the funny thing is, when I first saw him as an undrafted free agent, I was just like, McDaniels has to have one of these guys, doesn't he?
He's got to have one.
Not to be stereotypical, but he's got to have one
little water bug. Yeah.
Yeah. He does. I mean, he's got the water bug. I mean, the water bug is Douglas. So this is a different kind of guy. He's built differently. I don't want to put this on him, but definitely somewhere in that Amendola, Welker kind of range. Obviously, Welker was an all-time great, should be in the Patriots Hall of Fame. He probably could have come down with that pass, but it also wasn't a great pass either. So, but that's what he gets remembered for.
Yeah.
But basically, there's a role for that guy on this team. Is it necessarily going to be as big as what we're seeing? No, but it's in an offense that has really been devoid of, honestly, even reliable targets. I think it's important that you surround your second-year quarterback with as many guys that you have faith in as possible.
I agree with that. I certainly hope that he's not like this summer's Bam Childress. I tried to think, because I knew this was going to come up. I tried to think of like training camp crushes, and Bam Childress was one of the first ones that I had thought of. There was the tight end from Tulsa too, who I don't recall, but I remember us being just like, oh, he's good. He's going to be really, really good. You pair him with Gronk, he's going to be great. I forget who it was, but oh, by the way, I did come up with another running back since Curtis Martin, and of course, it didn't work out for reasons. Well, because it's another reason why Anakin Skywalker was right, and we should hate sand. Robert Edwards. Yeah, I was young when that injury happened. He was awesome. The stupid beach volleyball football game. Ugh. I'm so glad they stopped doing that crap.
Yeah. All right. So sorry to interrupt. It was just that came to mind, and I didn't want it to escape. So
I will always pause for brain lightning, Chris. I always will. The second thing on my list has been Kalavon Chasen has been an absolute beast on defense, and he's been one of those guys that certainly I didn't see it coming. I thought he was just going to be kind of just a spare part, a training camp body. He has been awesome. Awesome in camp, awesome in the games, just an absolute beast on the edge. And I didn't see it coming.
No, yeah, my second was just the way that edge is shaping up in general. I think that they've got a lot of interesting options. They've got they've got a good mix of some explosive guys with some more. I wouldn't call Harold Landry an explosive edge at this point, but he's a veteran who's still a guy who can play that kind of finisher role. So I'm encouraged that for a team that had such an issue once they didn't have Matthew Judon with generating any kind of pressure on opposing quarterbacks, even making them sweat a little bit. This is encouraging from that. And it seems like Vrabel is going to be much more aggressive when it comes to getting at the quarterback. It's kind of like, I think that it's going to lead to some issues with maybe some bigger plays allowed in the running game. Because I think that their mentality is like, tackle the running back on the way to the quarterback, So I'm intrigued by the options that they have, and I think that they're going to have some tough choices, when it comes down to it. I mean, I've been a fan of Anthony Jennings. He had a tough start to his career with injuries and such, and really finding what his role was. But when you talk about, he's not a big sack guy, he's not a big pass rusher, but he was one of their better players the past couple of years on that side of the ball, especially when it came to setting the edge, which was such an important thing in a Belichick defense. And then, of course, the Mayo defense was basically just an extension of the Belichick defense. He was just a good, solid football player, and I think he's a guy who is going to end up off this team, whether it's via trade or just a cut. I think he's one of the 53 best players on this team, but he's not one of the 53 best fits for this team, if that makes sense.
I agree with that, and I really like Anthony Jennings. He was a bit of a late bloomer when he first got drafted. Like, he seemed like kind of a square peg in a round hole. And I think the thing that bums me out about how this camp has transpired is just sort of, where does he fit? Like, I think he is edge rusher sized, but has always played linebacker. And that's just not the way that linebackers, certainly in Terrell Williams' offense or defense, certainly it doesn't seem like that's sort of the size that they are. Like, he's a little bit too big to be a linebacker, but has never really played edge. So he's sort of, again, on the outside looking in. And I just like, he seems like a good guy. Like, he was certainly one of the leaders on that team last year during whatever the hell that season kind of ended up. Like, he was a good soldier on that team, certainly with all the turmoil that year and the year before with all of the kind of Belichick on the out stuff. I hope that if they take him off this roster via a trade or a cut, that he lands somewhere that they can use his skills right. I don't know where that is, who still sort of has kind of that big linebacker core, but man, it'd be really nice to see him land somewhere that can use him.
Yeah, I think he's much more of the classic 3-4 outside linebacker, and unfortunately for him, that's a base defense that, not a lot of teams are playing anymore. I guess you can argue that at its core, Vrabel's base defense is a 3-4, but in the past they've been in base so infrequently that it doesn't make that guy useful. So, but yeah, so in general, I think that edge is one of their stronger positions. I think that that's one of the places where they've been able to reinforce some things, not only get better in terms of your starting caliber, but actually with some of the depth behind those starting players.
Yeah, I mean, I just sort of looking at how I broke it down too, of like just the guys that are, that are firmly entrenched, whether it be through the draft or through undrafted guys that they like, in addition to the veterans that they have. It's hard to see where he fits on the edge. And it's hard to see where he fits in the linebacking core too.
Yeah, but trying to get back to the positive, I think that we're both on the same page with them having a little bit of juice on the edge to go along with some veteran presence that's going to be good for this unit.
For sure, it's certainly different in terms of like the size of those guys, but it reminds me a lot of the year where Mark Anderson and Andre Carter were rotational guys on the edge for this team. That was that 2011, 2012, something like that. That they had guys, but they had guys who were good, who were in situational circumstances, were very good. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be interesting to see sort of how they use all of these guys on this defense. But Chason has been awesome. And it's really surprising to see. He was a guy, I want to say he was a first rounder handful of years ago, and it didn't quite click. And then it's just nice to see him kind of it clicking with him now.
Well, I'm just going to briefly look something up because I recall that like his road has not been kind to him either. So I feel like it hasn't just been him not able to put things together. Like, I mean, let's see. So he was, bear with me for just a second while I come up with this info.
LSU guy, right?
What's that?
LSU.
Yep.
LSU guy.
Drafted in the first round, 20th overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he played, his first year was 2020. So his first year was the COVID year. And was that the Urban Meyer year?
Oh, goodness. The Urban Meyer year was...
Hold on.
I'm going to look this up.
I've got the
I want to say the Meyer year is
why.
22. I think it's 22.
All right. Well, I'll believe you. But so he started out in Jacksonville and was in Jacksonville for a few years, including whatever that time was. It included the
Urban Meyer year was 21.
21. Okay. So his second year was the Urban Meyer year. He ended up playing with Jacksonville for 4 years. One of those years he only played 9 games because he got injured. And then he played last year with Vegas. And that Vegas team was, he had 4 interceptions last year.
Like, the dude is crazy athletic. He is.
He had 5 sacks and 4 interceptions as playing defensive end for them. So, I don't think that he's ever
Rod
going
Woodson
to
numbers. Those are Rod Woodson numbers from a defensive end.
I don't think he's ever going to, he's not going to be a perennial Pro Bowler at this point in his career. But, it's one of those things where you've seen guys in the past find find a place that works for them. Find what stick where they'll stick, and maybe this is it for him. I'm not, I'm encouraged by what I see. So, I think that we're both on the same wavelength. You were more micro, and I was more macro with our second one, but we're both in the same realm.
For sure. All right, you ready for my third one?
I'm ready.
All right. Here's what I wrote in my notes. The team structure looks so much more like a football team than whatever last year's camp and season was. I want to say again, which I've said on this podcast before, Gerard Mayo is one of my favorite Patriot players of all time. Was a great linebacker, a great player, a great captain on those teams. Was not suited to be a coach, was not suited to be the guy to run the show. I think with Vrabel and Stretch and the 3 offensive line coaches and a defensive staff that's done this before, and an offensive staff that, again, has done this before, especially done this before here, this looks way more like a NFL football team than whatever anything that had happened last year was. Last year was just, it was incredible just how poor that season went. And then when you see how this team responds on the bench and how they've been talking to the media after practice, it is night and day. It seems like night and day over there. And it's just refreshing to see a team that is back to business. The last 2 seasons certainly have not felt like back to business. And I think Vrabel having the gravitas that he has and building a staff that gets it and doesn't screw around is one of the most, I think for me, the most encouraging thing that's been going on this offseason.
Well, that was also not phrased as eloquently, but that was originally my third one. So I did have an honorable mention that I'll go to. I think that the back end of this defense has the chance to be something special, and I know we haven't seen a lot of Gonzalez, and basically we haven't seen our top 2 corners very often, and that's fine. Like, I don't need to. I know
I'm fine with it.
I know what those guys are. That's fine, but what we've seen from some of the other guys, I mean, you talk about a DJ James, who is a guy who we liked in that draft, and could be one of those guys who has a depth role on this team. Alex Austin is a guy who's bounced around here a little bit, and really can fill that either third boundary kind of thing. And I think, if there's one question that I have with this defense, it's like, okay, who's covering tight ends? And he's a bigger bodied guy who in certain situations could maybe do that. They've been playing him a little bit in the slot, kind of like in that big slot role. But some of these other guys who have been coming up, both in terms of the corners, and you've seen flashes from some of these other safeties as well. It makes it makes me less panicky about how Kyle Duggar has played his way off of this roster.
I will tell you that is one of my discouraging things is what the hell has happened to Kyle Duggar. It's crazy. Part of me wonders if it's just injuries that have piled up. Is it that he's a bad scheme fit for this defense? I don't know. But my question though is sort of just like, who is that second safety? Is it Woodson? Is it Dirty Del Pettis? Is it Marcus Epps? Like, I don't know where he fits.
Yeah, I think that they're going to play a lot more like the traditional safety roles. So, I mean, that Peppers is going to be that, that strong safety, more in the box guy. It
Yeah.
basically comes down to a competition between those other guys, and it could be almost a week to week thing. I don't think that they'll necessarily carry all of them, but I think Pettis is probably the guy who's looking on the outside. Probably a guy you can stash on the practice squad if you wanted to. So,
Yeah.
so from that, so basically you're looking at who's that guy who's up top. So and the
Jalen
thing
Hawkins?
probably, I mean, he probably
Yeah.
has the inside track at least early on, and then Woodson is kind of that kind
Next
of guy
guy.
too. So maybe he's the long term answer for that. But I mean, I think you've seen enough from all of them to feel comfortable. And also, I don't necessarily know if that free safety role is going to be quite as I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be quite as pivotal. They're not going to be playing a lot of like single high safety.
Devin
So
McCourty's kind of stuff.
yeah,
No, I agree.
So it's very possible that one of these guys becomes like that more regular guy, and then you've got the situational Duron Harmon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so I think that there's enough for you to work with here that Kyle Duggar forgetting how to play football really, and for me it was that first series that he played in that first preseason game, like
Yeah.
it was the first or second play, he just totally and absolutely terribly whiffed on a tackle.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, it was one of those things that we saw a lot of that last year, and we kind of chalked it up to he was a step slower because of the ankle and everything like that. And it's possible that it just hasn't recovered. Plus, he's trying to do that while learning a new defense. I mean, you're absolutely right. It could just not be a scheme fit because, I mean, I don't know what kind of defense they're running at Lenore Ryan. But if I recall, basically what they did was they put him out in center field, and that's how you got all those highlights of him, with like 90-yard interception run backs.
Yeah.
He can't really do that in the NFL. He doesn't have that level of athleticism,
he's never really had that speed. No. And,
I mean,
that's not
he's
to
always
say that
been
he's a bad football player, but he's just never really had like Ed Reed kind of wheels.
No, he's there have been times where he's been able to make dynamic plays, and that was a combination of he's a physical. When he came out in the draft, he was a physical freak. He was a combine darling. And he at times had some really great instincts. You would see it and be like, wow, like he jumped that route, that nobody had a chance here. And then between that and his physical tools, he's taking it back to the house. He's always had some of those. He's always had some of those like issues with his game too. Like he's not a guy that you really want covering a top tight end. He has had his issues with missing tackles before. But yeah, so I'm shocked that the fall has been this far where we're talking about, I mean, they could very well just cut him. They'd be eating a bunch of money, but they've got the cap space to do that. So I feel like we've dove in right into concerns right off the bat. This started out as what's encouraging, and every time that we say something encouraging, we end up, well, that's because this bad thing is happening here. So so bring it back to the positive. There are other options that make it easier to absorb that.
I agree. And it's sort of like, I think on defense, there are just so many guys this year that they've brought into this camp that make guys like Duggar and Jennings expendable. You know, you and I were talking a little bit during the first preseason game. I love me some Truman Jones, and I'm not just saying that because he went to college. I don't know, 1,000 yards that way at Harvard, but I just feel like they just have these guys that can fit what they want to do more. I think we look at a lot of these things a little bit, and maybe not you and I, we more of like a Royal Patriots fans. We're used to one style of play for the last 25 years. And now that there's a new regime in town, that the Patriots are going to look a little bit different. And I think it's easy to get caught in the trap of, well, these guys have been good players in previous systems, but this is the first time they've changed that defense, that they've really, truly, fundamentally changed it. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that goes. I think it's going to be a lot more of a pressure-based defense, and then with a great secondary. Who knows what they're going to be against the run? Like I'm bracing a little bit for if Devin Achane is healthy, what he's going to do against them in that game against Miami in week 2.
Some no Sean Marino games.
Oh God, the amount of oh God, there were some weird ones that I can remember of just like, who is this guy? Who is this running back? What? Why? Why? Like and I don't want that to like cloud the first, like, I don't want that to harsh the buzz of the season in the beginning, but like, this defense could be really special. I'm kind of really excited about what it could be. And I just hope that they build enough depth, within the system to be able to kind of withstand any potential veteran departures.
Yeah. All right. So now we'll get on to 3 things that, and maybe we've touched on these already, but 3 things that you are either concerned or discouraged about heading into this season.
All right. I'm going to do this. It breaks my heart to do this, but I'm going to do it. Are you ready?
I'm braced myself. Here we go.
The Pastronaut is a great human, but maybe a terrible quarterback. I love Josh Dobbs. I do. He seems like a good dude, good citizen, like great clubhouse guy. I swear to God, if something were to happen to Drake May and Josh Dobbs comes in, this feels like the harbinger of doom that used to be Josh Johnson. How that Josh Johnson would come in and be like the 3rd quarterback on a team and being just like, oh no, our season has gone to hell. We have to go to this guy now. I don't know if somebody's going to get cut from another team, but man, Dobbs is aggressively not good. And I apologize for being as psyched as I was about that in April. He's, again, a great guy. That the Patriots egg drop video for the schedule release, a delight, a true video delight. Him in the preseason, opposite of that.
Yeah, it's been hard, and on top of everything else, you've got some guys who are trying to make this team, and he's not giving them opportunities. I mean, now there's enough on Javon Baker to to have him off the team by his own accord.
Regardless, yeah.
But I mean, man, there are a couple of times where it's just like, you gotta at least give the guy a chance there, and it's just I mean, there's a reason. I think that I looked it up. The past 2 years, he had signed with 3 different teams.
Yeah,
I mean, look,
yeah,
it's looking like the New England Patriots don't have an NFL backup quarterback.
Yeah. Right now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah.
Like they don't have one signed to a contract right now.
It's interesting.
For all of the problems that he that he apparently has been having in Dallas, I can't help but think. I mean, Parker Romo's looking pretty okay. Could we have gotten by with Parker Romo and still had a viable backup quarterback in Joe Milton? Not that I think that's going to make
that
or
pick
break
was
things.
the Borregales pick. Yeah, it was.
Right. Yeah, and the long snapper. So like
Julian Ashby.
It's not like, I think that Joe Milton was going to save their season or anything like that, but there's something to be said after looking at what they have behind Drake May to be like, was that the best use of that asset?
Yeah, I don't know.
And
I don't know.
Hindsight being what it is. I mean, maybe I don't know. But Josh Dobbs, when he came in, I wasn't excited about. I guess I'm excited to hear that we've got another guy who they can say, oh, hey, he's a rocket scientist. Oh, yeah, and by the way, did you know that Chris Hogan played lacrosse?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right,
so go ahead.
Well, but also, like, when I think about it, and when I think about like teams that have quarterback surplus that they're gonna let go, I don't know that any of the other quarterbacks that are for sure potentially on the chopping block in like Cleveland really excite you. You want to get real psyched about Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel? I don't know. I mean, I love me some Dylan Gabriel back at Oklahoma and Oregon.
I was going to say.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, too, it's just like Kenny Pickett's at least won some football games in the NFL. Mr. Tiny Hands has at least, acquitted himself as an NFL player. Maybe shouldn't have been a first-round draft pick. Not maybe. Shouldn't have been a first-round draft pick. Was a first-round draft pick in a terrible quarterback draft. But,
But he did that cool slide that one time. Remember? He did that cool slide once.
He sure did. But, so, yes, there are probably options. No, it's a backup quarterback. So, no, it's not going to excite you.
No,
it shouldn't excite. If signing a backup quarterback excites you, then there's a real problem with your starting quarterbacks. So no, none of the names are going to excite you, but you can at least feel a little bit more secure in okay, if this guy, let's say Drake, let's say Drake does everything right. Takes off for a 10-yard gain, slides when he's supposed to slide, and somebody hits him late and he's concussed. Do I have faith in Dobbs or Woolridge? No. So even to get you through a couple of games, I don't trust either one of those guys. Whereas there are guys who may be available who maybe you trust a little more.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. Like, I was seeing things on like TikTok about, the Colts naming Daniel Jones their starting quarterback, and what are they going to do with Anthony Richardson? I don't know. But the onus of this should not be on Anthony Richardson. It should be on the rival. Chris, the rivalry is back on Ballard. You take that guy at 4? I'm sorry. It's been stuck in my head since I saw it early this morning. Yeah. Your choice is Daniel Jones, and you're going to go with that. Okay. But it's going to be interesting because I think with this offensive line, I'm really hoping that they can protect Drake May, but my God, if they can't and the Pastronaut has to come in, it's it's going to be a sadder space tale than Gravity. It really will. Patriots fans are going to feel like Sandra Bullock just floating around, just floating in space.
Isn't that what we've been for the past like 3 seasons at least?
Yes.
Well, this segues perfectly into my first concern, and it's still the offensive line.
Yeah.
You asked me in an earlier podcast if I would be surprised if Ben Brown was the starting center, and I told you I would have been with Bradbury on the roster, and wow, Jared
Wilson.
Not Cole Strange. Jared Wilson. Thank you. It's been a long day. Originally, I was like, okay. Now I see, like if they're, I didn't take into account that maybe they'd play Wilson at left guard. So that was originally, I was just like, okay, let's, so there is a world where I can see if Ben Brown is your biggest problem playing, and you're having playing center, you're okay. You're not in great shape, but you're okay.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at things where, Bradbury doesn't look good. They're fooling around with Ben Brown at left guard, and they're trying to give Wilson some snaps at center. I don't think that they know what they want to do with that, with that interior part of the line,
Yeah.
That's a concern for me. And, I don't think that we have much in the way of assurances that I
agree with that. I think.
Well, and I don't feel great about any assurances as in terms of right tackle either. I mean, I think that at best, your right tackle is going to be solid, and if he's not, then you're really looking at probably a 7th round draft pick, rookie, playing that side.
Bryant,
right?
Marcus Bryant,
who, from all accounts has been fine. But I don't know. I see a lot of questions and not a lot in the way of depth. They've got a lot of bodies. They don't have a lot of depth. I mean, just wrapping my head around the idea, honestly, getting back to the Ben Brown thing, is I didn't think of a world where they'd be kicking Wilson to left guard, because with the number of left guards that they have on this team that apparently they have no use for, it boggles my mind. So,
can you name all of those left guards?
Oh, geez. What we got? Layden Robinson, City So, Cole Strange. So there's 3 right. There's 3 right there. 3 that you use draft capital on.
And who else have they been toying with the idea of playing at guard?
Oh, Caden Wallace. Another guy that you used, like, what? Caden Wallace was he a top 100 pick, or was he just outside the top 100? He was
third round out of Penn State.
I think it was just outside of the top. But so this is, that's a major concern for me. Like, yes, we've seen some encouraging signs from our number 1 pick, which is great.
Campbell.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the one thing that he really struggles with is inside moves, where he really needs to trust that left guard is going to be there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the one guy that you can say is the reliable guy is Mike Onwenu, who, as good as he was a couple of years ago, what is he going to be this year? Because they've messed around with him enough in terms of position, it's good that he's back at his normal position, but I mean, even that's a question mark. So line is a problem, and it gets to what you're talking about with the Pastronaut is what happens if this line, implodes.
Then we're looking at, what was that rookie year with David Carr. But I will say this, though. I will say this. And I think this is a good question for this conversation, for this part of the conversation. Is the Patriots offensive line worse than the Houston Texans offensive line? I don't think so. It's close.
I will readily admit that I haven't looked at what their unofficial depth chart looks like right now, but I can say probably not. And I can say that this year's Patriots unit is going to be better than last year's. But when you were absolutely the worst in almost every measurable statistic across multiple, like whether it's PFF or ESPN or whatever metric they're using, when you were that bad, when your score was basically 0, being better doesn't mean you're good. And that's my concern.
Fair. All right. I have the Texans depth chart up. I'm going to go left to right. Okay.
Okay.
Your left tackle is Cam Robinson. Your left guard is Laken Tomlinson. Your center is Jarrett Patterson. Right guard is Titus Howard. Right tackle is Ariante Ursery.
I would say that the Patriots are marginally better.
Only a little bit better.
Only a little bit better.
Okay. I don't know that I agree. I don't know that I agree with you, but that offensive line stinks.
It does. I just also I don't have. Basically, the Patriots' offensive line is guys who we've either never seen play an NFL snap, or guys who Onwenu's a good player, but he's also an uncertainty. A 34-year-old right tackle who was league average last year is a question mark as far as I'm concerned. Whoever is going to be left guard is a question mark as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So I don't consider this, they're better than they were last year, but there was nowhere else to go.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. Fair criticism. I would say that is fair criticism.
All right. We are already 53 minutes into this and we're still on the Patriots. So
this is bad.
Start moving this along.
This is bad. I mean, I will say I only had one more somewhat discouraging and disconcerting thing.
So you only had 2?
Well, okay. Because the first one was not. I'll tell you what the first one was. The first one was not seeing Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis together kind of sucks, right? And that was pretty much all I was going to say. I thought that was going to be like,
okay,
that kind of sucks, but I'd rather see them for 17 games or whatever. Fine. The Pastronaut one, and we talked about Duggar and Anthony Jennings. So I'll give you my honorable mention. My honorable mention is, don't lie to me, Chris Maza. You were a little disappointed with the Brady statue, right? Like a little bit. Like it's good. It's good. Like the sculptor did a nice job. It's good. I don't know. I feel like there are a little bit more iconic moments that they could have chosen. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm also not saying you're right, because I am reserving judgment until I see it in person.
That's fair. Same.
I'm taking the same approach to that I am taking for the Walt Disney animatronic at Disneyland. It's
I
one
really
of those
thought
things
you were
that
going to say the
probably-
offensive line, but that's okay.
It's one of those things that probably looks better in person and just doesn't translate, when you're looking at it on a screen.
I'm just glad
also-
it's not as creepy as the Cristiano Ronaldo statue or the nightmare fuel that is the Lucille Ball statue in upstate New York.
I haven't seen
Any of
that
your
one.
viewers and listeners should pause this podcast, Google quote scary Lucy, and just
Hold on, I'm doing that right
just
now.
get your world rocked by a creepy sculpture. It's fine. It's a fine statue. I also wasn't really getting like super psyched about the Tom Brady statue. It just wasn't
Yikes.
something that was. That sculptor's got some splaining to do, right, Lucy? Just creepy.
There's actually a picture of it and Steve Buscemi next to each other, and it's actually strikingly similar.
Yeah. One of my favorite art blunders, right up there with the Jesus fresco in Spain that poor old woman tried to fix. They tried to build a bronze Lucille Ball, turned out like the Jesus fresco. But thank God the Brady one, pretty good.
And the one thing that people have said, it should have been a more iconic moment. I feel like the one thing that I've kind of felt with this is it's almost as much a salute to the fans as it is to a specific Tom Brady moment.
I agree.
And that's really what that, what he's doing in that pose is he's, saluting the fans, so
yeah.
I really think that was what they were going with that. Yes, there are a bunch of different things. Some people have criticized, well, he should have been playing football, but thinking like the, being someone who's been to enough BC football games, the Flutie statue, which is in front of Alumni Stadium.
Yeah.
So I get that. I'm not going to criticize anybody who has that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I don't know. I find it a little weird making statues of people who are still alive anyway. So, I guess I'm
I kind of agree with that. It did sort of have a little bit of a living funeral feel to it. Like that ceremony. It was weird. But it's interesting of like, and this can probably dovetail us into other subjects if we're already 58 minutes into this. But it's interesting to think, all right, so the Brady statue is up now. I don't know who the next athlete to get one in this town is. Is it David Ortiz? He's got the street named after him. I don't know where they put it down near the ballpark. I mean, do you just put the largest amount of bronze known to man and just make a very tall Zdeno Chara? I don't know. It's a weird time in Boston sports to figure that out. I'm sure the next one is probably Belichick with the cut off sleeves and the headset. But I had heard on Felger and Maz, they were talking about this. I know I'm referencing Dumb and Dumber. I get it. But they had a really funny line that like, well, if you do a Belichick statue, you probably have to put a Robert Kraft statue right in between the two. Because even the sculptures will have drama. It's funny. It was really funny. I can't lie and say that I didn't laugh at that line.
That is a good one. I'll give them credit for that.
I'll give them that.
All right. So, I think we've touched on some of the other concerns that we have. Like I said, even when we were mentioning the positives, we kind of fell into some of those concerns as well. So I think we've pretty well covered it. I guess the only other concern that I have, And I know you love some Truman Jones, and that would be a little bit of an answer to this.
Hell yeah, brother.
But I'm concerned again with depth. I'm concerned about linebacker. You know what? That's a position where you got Robert Spillane, and then what? I mean,
Well,
are you going to play Jelani Tavai out of position again? I mean, we've seen how well that has gone. I mean, Christian Ellis is a nice player, but he's not a guy that I want. You know, he's the right kind of player to play next to Robert Spillane.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is he's a guy who likely gets exposed if he doesn't have Robert Spillane, and they don't have another guy of that kind of ilk on this roster right now. So, all right, we are now past the 1 hour mark. So I'm gonna keep this moving. I'm gonna cut that off. That was just, and I would call that a small C concern, but it is something that I've wondered about. All right.
I will tell you, I did pull up my roster projection that I did have, and I had for linebackers, I had Spillane, Ellis, Jack Gibbon, Marte Mapu, Jelani Tavai, and Elijah Ponder. So I had 6 linebackers. But they're all, after Spillane, there are a fair amount of question marks with every single one.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you had touched on. So
yeah.
Kudos to you.
I mean, like, Mapu actually playing linebacker instead of them trying to have him play free safety. I mean, that's already a plus. So see, I'm finding silver linings even in my negatives too. So
look at you being Mr. Sunshine over here. Look at you.
All right. So moving on to the Red Sox. And I think that we both, we talked about the trade deadline and such. I don't think that either of us were belligerent about, the fact that a major move wasn't made. But I think that it would be fair to say that we were both disappointed with the constitution of this team post deadline and what that means for their chances for success this season. I'm prefacing this by saying I know that this team has a good young core, and there's a lot to be excited about. So I'm not being a downer on this. And I will readily admit, and I think we talked about it on this podcast, we were both cautiously optimistic about this team based off of what we saw, heading into the season. But I think about these windows and how people think that these windows stay open. It's like, oh, we got a good young core, we can be patient. These windows don't stay open long. I mean, I think that we were spoiled. I was talking about this last week. We spun off from Formula One and started talking about Boston sports a little bit too. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I said is we kind of got spoiled a little bit. We had, obviously Brady that was a 20-year span of unprecedented greatness.
That's once in a generation stuff. Yeah.
Even with the Bruins, with that core of, Bergeron and Krejci and, and Marchand and, you're looking at these guys in Chara and you're looking at these guys and that lasted longer than it probably should have based on towards the end of it, just the sheer will of those guys.
Yeah.
And even with that, extended window, they won one championship. So especially when you're like, look, I'm always going to hammer home, you're one of the few teams who has a distinct advantage in a non-salary cap league
for now,
as the Boston Red Sox. For now, sure. For now. But that's never going to happen. There's never going to be a salary cap in baseball. It's just not going to happen. Baseball will fold before that will happen. They have the most powerful union in the world.
They do, and that's what's going to lead. And that's what's going to lead to a lockout in 27. brief.
Yeah. There'll be a lockout, and then there will not be, when they come back, there will not be a salary cap. There may be some other adjustment or something. We won't see a salary cap. But anyway.
But anyway, with the Red Sox though, like I think you and I both were, as you were saying, were dissatisfied with what they had done at the deadline. But I had sort of started to think about this when we were talking about what we wanted to do to talk about the Red Sox. When like really the only two starters that got moved at the deadline were J.P. Sears from the Sacramento Athletics, got dealt to San Diego, and Merrill Kelly, who I think the Red Sox probably should have been in on instead of or been in on more, despite being hung up on the Joe Ryan of it all. But I think them getting Dustin May is a good thing for them, because I think that's a guy who kind of projects really highly from everything that we've seen as a prospect, and with what the Dodgers certainly were thinking with him. Excuse me. And I think May in his previous two starts has been good. Steven Matz has been great, out of the bullpen. But the thing that really irks me about this team right now is the bullpen. It is like, it's real shaky. I was pleased to see Isaiah Campbell get sentenced to Worcester. All that guy provides is a cool mustache and rec specs. That's it. Cool mustache, cool eyewear, cannot throw a strike to save his life. Like, there was no reason on Saturday night. I was down in Rhode Island with family for a family wedding, and we were listening to the Red Sox game, driving with my parents down to a brewery in beautiful Warren, Rhode Island. And we're listening to this game, and my dad and I are having this conversation, and he goes, "Are they really bringing Chapman into this game that they were winning 7-1? They're really bringing him in."
Yeah,
Okay.
I was at a golf tournament in your hometown, and we had finished our round, and the game when we were having our drinks after our round was 7-1. We went in to have dinner, as part of this tournament, and by the time we finished dinner, we were right there. Chapman was coming in, and it was 7-5, and it was one of those things where for a split second I was surprised, and I was just like, it's kind of the way that this team is built, and B, I don't think that Cora has necessarily always managed the bullpen and his pitching staff all that well. So there was a second of like shock from the, just the optics of it. But then thinking about it, it's just like, well, yeah, this is what, looking at what this team is, it's more probable that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think throwing Campbell on Saturday truly feels like one of those things that is for sure he's a low leverage guy. This is a low leverage situation. We can live with enough of this. And then when it gets to 7-5, it's, oh no, we got to get our closer who's leading the league in ERA for relievers and probably going to win whatever it used to be the Rolaids Relief Pitcher of the Year, which is just a truly wonderful sponsor to award marriage. But because he's just that good. Like there are times I watch Aroldis Chapman pitch, and I kind of cackle to myself that another human throws like 102, and it looks so easy. It's baseball's fun. I love baseball so much for stuff like this. But like, I think the path to get to Chapman on days like that, if you have to get there at all, is a rocky one. It's bad, and it's, like, you can't use Garrett Whitlock every night. You can't. The guy goes multiple innings. You can't do that with Matz either. Like, Matz and Whitlock to me are the opposite sides of the same coin, of the bulk reliever who just throws strikes from either side. That's who they are. And that's what they like. I look at it a lot like one of my favorite relievers of all time is Andrew Miller. Andrew Miller was used for multiple innings, was a weapon for teams for years in the playoffs. And I think, that that's kind of how the rules have now changed for baseball, that you can't just have you can't have your Mike Myers, Chad Bradford, lefty only out guys, and you can't really have specialists anymore.
Right.
And I think that's sort of what they did with Matz, of trying to get another lefty who can be a bulk lefty. Now today, Campbell got demoted for Richard Fitz, and they're going to use Fitz out of the bullpen, who can be another bulk guy who throws 98 on his heater. It just sort of feels like it's at this point where they're just like, all right, enough screwing around. Let's just put guys with good stuff in our bullpen, and we can use them when we have to. I'm very interested to see how they look against New York this weekend, and this is a Yankee team that is very beatable right now. Completely beatable.
And the Red Sox have done well in beating them thus far.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. I'm going to be a little negative here. You could say that this idea of, okay, let's just get some guys who can pitch multiple innings and have some interesting stuff, is what you do when you haven't assembled the bullpen you need to, in order to be a true contender. Because now you're throwing it at the wall and hoping it sticks. Just like, okay, well, this guy's got some good stuff here. This guy's got some good stuff here. You don't it's lacking. And granted, you talked about the way that that bullpens are assembled has changed because of the rule changes, but it doesn't feel like there's a structure. Like, there's not a guy that you're pointing at and you're just like, outside of Chapman, there isn't a guy that I feel like, okay, this guy is for this. And that's problematic for me. And I think that some of that is the roster construction, and some of it is that, that Cora hasn't, whether it's he doesn't have the confidence to, or, for whatever reason, he hasn't put people in those roles consistently enough for there to be any rhythm. Rhythm for, it seems weird, but for a sport like baseball, but rhythm does matter, especially for pitchers, like having a routine, so to speak, that's not the word I'm looking for, but I can't come up with it. That helps, knowing what your role is and what you're there to do, especially in the bullpen, helps. So I just feel like there's too much shifting, and not enough talent. And so you're shifting things around to try and find something that works. And to me, that's not a great formula. Oh, I think I lost your audio here. There you go.
Yeah.
Hey.
Okay. I must have mistakenly hit the mute button. I think I tried to, I think I did. I think I tried to cough or something, but, they don't exactly have a structure that is, Embry in the 7th, Timlin in the 8th, Fulk in the 9th, right? They don't have guys that have those set up roles. It's interesting because I feel like if they really wanted to, it would be Matz in the 7th, Whitlock in the 8th, Chapman in the ninth. Like that. Like that's probably what their bullpen is if they make it to October. If they make it there, it's Matz in the seventh, Whitlock in the eighth, Chapman in the ninth, or even it's probably not even Whitlock in the eighth. It's probably who's coming back soon in Justin Slayton. Slayton's the guy who's got the best stuff outside of Chapman in that bullpen, but he's been hurt the last month and a half or so. And and he pitched great in a rehab assignment just the other day. And I thought that when they sent Campbell down this afternoon, that they were going to just bring Slayton back and just let it rip. That might be a couple of weeks from now, and they'll probably send Nate Eaton back to Worcester, who's been a good part-timer for them, playing third base and in the outfield. But I think for this Red Sox team, having those established roles is going to be key. And part of me just feels like it's going to be, Matt's Whitlock in the 6th and 7th, Slayton in the 8th, Chapman in the 9th, and they just haven't had that kind of continuity. I think going into the year, they thought that Liam Hendricks was going to give them something as sort of like that second closer, and that recovery just hasn't happened. And that's a guy who's been through cancer, who's been through Tommy John, and he's an older guy too. Like the recovery time is a lot harder. That I think that they thought going in that they were going to have like a two-headed monster in the back end of that bullpen, and that just didn't really happen. So I think one of the things, kind of going back to the deadline too, is that they didn't get a high leverage reliever. Prices were insane. For the Padres to get Mason Miller, they gave up the 3rd overall prospect in all of baseball, and Leo DeVries to get Sears and Miller, and other prospects too. That, and maybe this is just me being an old school baseball normie or something, but it's insane to me to trade the 3rd best prospect in baseball for a relief pitcher. Yeah, Mason Miller throws 103.9 and just throws heat, but you're giving up this kind of prospect material and these kind of assets for a reliever is crazy town to me. I think, their big issues has been pitching kind of all year. It's been nice to see Giolito and Bayo kind of round into shape as their 2nd and 3rd starters. It's a couple of guys kind of fighting for that 4th spot if they do make it to a playoff rotation. Maybe it's May because they've invested by trading Tibbs and Earhart for him. But, their pitching is what it is. Their lineup every night has been interesting. I think immediately making Roman Anthony their leadoff hitter has been awesome. Going Anthony, Bregman, Jarren Duran in the 3-hole is like putting a Maserati engine in a Mini Cooper. It's awesome that he's this guy who's got this great speed and can hit for power, and you put him in the 3-hole, it's kind of perfect for him. After they traded Devers, they needed to figure out what the middle of that lineup was going to be. And Duran hitting 3rd, and the comeback, I'm saying it now, comeback player of the year, Trevor Story hitting 4th has been awesome for them. And Abreu hitting 5th when he's in the lineup, and Rafael has been great, but the bottom of that order is a bit of an issue. And I think they tried to address it this week with Nathaniel Lowe as first base. He's a top 10 first baseman who was having a terrible year in DC, being the old guy with a bunch of kids. And, he came in, he hit that awesome tying home run last night. Sign me up. I love that guy. I hope they think about keeping him for next year. I mean, granted, this then complicates things with Yoshida. What do you do with his contract? In my mind, if they can have Nathaniel Lowe as their everyday first baseman and Tristan Casas as their DH next year, they'll be fine. But with this year, it's going to be interesting. Like the kids are good. I don't know that they've had a bumper crop of young players like this. Certainly rookies. It might be hyperbole to say this since Lynn and Rice in 75. Maybe those mid-10s years with Betts and Bradley and Benintendi in the outfield. They're in a good place. You just sort of hope that they have enough to push themselves over the line for this year.
Yeah, and I think that the kids being as good as they are kind of like, for me, invalidates a bit the argument against trading prospects and having to give a prospect haul for positions of need. We keep hearing that the future is now because we've got these kids and these kids are great. Okay, then these other prospects don't have the same value to you that they do to somebody else. So transfer those into value for your team now. So that's kind of where I run into a problem. It's just like, how many kids can you play? Like, you have the kids, like the kids are here now. That's what I've been hearing. Get excited. The future is here. Great. Reinforce them now. You have these other players, and they did a little bit. Like they look, trading Blaze to get Mats was, I think that maybe some people value him a little more than I would, seeing as he's a corner outfielder who couldn't make the major league roster on a team that didn't have a first baseman.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. No, I agree. He's an imperfect prospect for what I think they wanted, and I think was always going to be just organizationally blocked here.
Yeah. No, and I look, so I acknowledge that there's some of that where, like, you don't just make a deal, you got to make the right deal, and when I say that I'm disappointed, it's not completely pointing the blame at, the front office, because, like, it's just when I look at what the end result was, yes, I'm disappointed. Some of it's circumstance. Some of it may be lack of aggressiveness. Whatever it is, yeah, I'm disappointed that they weren't able to do more to reinforce these young guys who I am excited about. And it comes down a lot to, man. So I'm looking at some things here, and this is one thing that I was able to look at this week. This is a team that in the second half is 15-13. Now, they've played some tough competition, and
that
it's
road
been
trip after the All-Star break was kind of a backbreaker,
and it's been a mixed bag. But in August, they're 9-7. Like, they haven't been great since that first road trip out of, so. And when I look at the bigger picture, and some of this goes back to this bullpen issue, they are in one-run games 16-23.
Yeah,
gross.
It's bad. It's really bad. Like, really
extra
bad.
They're 7-11 in extra inning games.
We can talk about last night's game if you want to. That was one of the more infuriating losses I've ever watched. Not sending Nate Eaton on that terrible throw. Oh my God. I was watching this
the
game
defense
here.
of it was worse than the defense of it was actually worse than the play.
The defense of, we had already decided we weren't testing that guy's arm.
Yeah.
Like, look, I think as someone who I can understand the analytics of baseball, like, one of my favorite books ever is Moneyball. Like, I get it. I get why the math makes sense in baseball. I do. But crap like that just, oh my God, it grinds my gears so much. And I think it grinds Alex Cora's gears too. I think he's a little fed up of, excuse my parlance, the nerds upstairs having decided, oh, well, we're just not going to do this. We're not going to test Colton Cowser's arm.
There's something to be
that throw landed in, Weston at that point. Like, what are you doing?
There's something to be said for that, but at the same time, Cora is responsible for what's happening, between the lines. They can present the analytics to him, but at the end of the day, I would much rather him, have to ask for, for Craig Breslow's forgiveness than say, oh, well, it was organizationally decided that we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So, we can blame the nerds upstairs, but Cora's the guy who's supposed to be running things, once the game starts.
He can push those buttons, because that was, you wasted a great night from your starter. You wasted an awesome outing by Chapman. Chapman was awesome. And Whitlock was great too, preceding him. It was just sort of one of those that, not running him. I think not running him, honestly, I would have rather if that throw was online and they lost on a throw home to the plate. I would just be like, all right, at least you tried. It's just wild to me. There are times like that where they seem timid, and the youth and inexperience of these players shows. But it shouldn't show when it's decisions from your manager who has a World Series ring. He has 2 World Series rings, right? No, he's 3. He has 3 World Series rings. He's got one as a player, one as a bench coach, and one as a manager. He shouldn't have clay feet here.
Right. No, yeah. And I mean, just these are the games you have to win, especially when you have had such a mixed bag of results against, the top competition. But I mean, I'm looking at some of this, they this season are 3-3 against Minnesota. They're 4-3 against the Chicago White Sox,
who were terrible.
Right. 4-4 against Baltimore. These are the things now, that it hurts a bit, because it's just these are supposed to be the layups, these are supposed to be the, and you're not going to win them all, but
no,
doing better than 500 against some of these teams, you gotta, and so, but who knows? They could do that, and then, like you said, they've got the Yankees coming up, and they could blow them out of the water because that's a vulnerable team. But that's what's frustrating about this is there was an opportunity to stabilize a little bit, and I still feel like we're on this seesaw a little bit, and that's going to happen with young teams.
Yeah.
My contention always is the Boston Red Sox are not a team that needs to be patient about this stuff.
No.
They are one of probably about 5 teams that can say that. So that's where my frustration comes from, is that we're being told to be patient, but we're not given any rational reason why we should be patient. Because it's staring at the talent that there is on this team is staring us in the face, and we know it can be a little bit better, and it just, so yeah.
No,
anyway.
I agree. Okay. I agree that they shouldn't this is the Boston Red Sox. They shouldn't be there shouldn't be bridge years here. There shouldn't be.
Right.
At this point, there shouldn't be. This shouldn't be a bridge year. Or this shouldn't be a, I don't know, let's see what happens kind of year. It should be one of my favorite Patriots quotes of all time was, is a Drew Bledsoe quote where he says to Tom Brady in the first Super Bowl, Super Bowl 36, where Charlie Weiss says to him, hey, take care of that ball. And Bledsoe says to him, F it. Go out there and sling it. This should be a year where it's F it. Go out there and sling it. It should be.
Yeah, I don't, at this point, I don't think that they have the horses. They don't have the horses to do that. So, I mean, and look, this is, I think, what's going to, I've been worried about Fool's Gold, and especially like that streak that they had right before the All-Star break. I was worried that, that's what it was going to end up being.
Yeah.
And not Fool's Gold in the sense that it's not a talented team, but Fool's Gold in that this team is going to make a legitimate push, and
or that it's like you see on your like dashboard of like, 10 miles until empty. And like, it just feels like they're going to like leave a couple of games short of like getting to the gas station to refuel.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to quickly run through our residents of the TD Garden. And I know you accuse me of being fatalist with this wording, but are we looking at lost seasons for the Boston Celtics and the Boston Bruins?
Okay. I'm going to start with the easiest one first. And the easiest one first is the Boston Bruins. This year might really suck. Like they might be, I'm going to start the slogan now. They might be giving up for Gavin. They might be giving up for Gavin McKenna, who's playing at Penn State this year, who's going to be the number one pick in next year's draft. They've built this team that, and I want to credit Pete Blackburn and DJ Bean from the What Chaos podcast for creating this term. They've kind of created like this, like, oops, all fourth liners team with the signings that they've made. They might be really, really bad. Like, I tried to think of like bright spots and silver linings for this team for this year. And honestly, like the highest ceiling is that they have Pavel Zacha, David Pasternak, Charlie McAvoy, and Jeremy Swayman as their only Olympians. Like, that's kind of like what you really have to play for. But like, then I started to kind of think about the rest of that roster. And I think when you go full teardown like they did last March, that like you kind of have to look at what they got in return, right? They got Fraser Minton from the Toronto Maple Leafs for Brandon Carlo. Minton is one of their top prospects that they've had in Toronto. That's a name I've heard from the Steve Dangle podcast, who's a big Maple Leafs podcaster and YouTuber that I've heard talk about for the last couple of years. And the Bruins have him. And he could be a guy who could be a good centerman. You're expecting him at best to be your third center. Maybe you got something there. Maybe you've got something from Will Zeller, who you got for Charlie Coyle. But man, oh man, this team, if the best thing you can say about them is that it's going to be hell to play them every night, like I feel a little bad for Marco Sturm, who's a Bruin I loved. I don't want to have to refer to Marco Sturm like I refer to Gerard Mayo about being a player that I really liked who got kind of a raw deal. But man, this team, how it is like it's built to tank and to suck for a year and then rebuild. I don't know. Like, I think it's just like you can wait a year for James Higgins to be a part of this lineup, but I don't know that I'm going to be going to TD Garden anytime soon to watch the Bruins. I might be going to a lot of games at Conti Forum to go see Higgins and Letourneau and The other kid they took in the second, Will Simpson, I believe. Like their future is on the way, but oh man, is it going to be a slog, especially if they have the ambient attack that Sturm employed in the Kings organization. Ugh.
Yeah, the Sturm signing, and I will readily admit that I'm being a little bit of a hypocrite here, because Sturm is much more of a outside the box kind of hire after I had really criticized them for their last hire being kind of boring and milquetoast.
Montgomery?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know that you and I ever talked about that.
I think that basically we left it as, and sometimes I know when to leave things alone. Like I'll send you a text and your response will just be, okay. And that's when I know it's okay. I'll just leave it alone.
Yeah.
But when they hired Montgomery, I just sent you something that said boring. and you said, okay. And I was just like, okay,
I like them hiring Montgomery, for the record. I did.
And look, I don't think that, Montgomery was the problem last year. That was, but he also wasn't part of the solution either. So, and the coach is always the first thing to go.
Yeah.
So, but Sturm almost felt like they went, oh, so somebody wants the job? Yeah. Let's go get that before
guy.
He changes his mind. Let's get him. Like there had been so much talk about these about other guys, and some other guys who were just like, yeah, no. That it almost felt like it was just like, oh well, hell, this guy wants it. We might as well give him a shot. And I feel like he's set up to fail. It's just, and I hate to feel that way about it, but you're the Boston Bruins, and you can't get anybody interested in your head coach vacancy.
Yeah,
and that says a lot.
Bad.
It says a lot.
Bad.
Not only it says a lot not only about the roster, it says a lot about you organizationally.
I wonder. I agree with you. I wonder if that changes, if and when the Jacobs let Neely and Sweeney go. Because I think that is the anchor that has run this ship aground for the last several seasons. They need to be more. We talk about this with the Red Sox. It's kind of the opposite of they need to be a little bit more analytics forward. They need to grow and adapt and be certainly more offensive minded. They haven't been that's what I loved about Montgomery, is that Montgomery was an offensive minded coach. And that I don't know, they haven't had an offensive minded coach. Pat Burns. Maybe. Because if you think about it, the coaches since Burns have been Mike Keenan, not exactly the world's most offensive genius, Robbie Ftorek, Dave Lewis, who got that 1 year, Mike Sullivan in between that, and when he was young, Mike Sullivan would have been the perfect coach for them to hire after this offseason. I understand why they didn't. I feel like coaching your daughter's husband is probably not what a guy wants to do. But but it's just interesting to me that I think Sturm's a great fit. I think he's a young coach. He's been outside of the organization long enough for it not to feel like an old boys club hire, but it's going to be a rough 82 games on Causeway Street, man. There are going to be tickets that are going to be cheap that me and my brother-in-law Tim are probably going to look at and just be like, we could do this. But then it's like a game where they get like waxed 5-2, and the two goals are like David Pasternak goals are like, fine. These poor people have spent this kind of money to come see us. All right, I'll give them 2 bites at the apple here. They're not going to be good. You hope that they get the first overall pick. They certainly won't, because the NHL is weird and they won't. But it's gonna suck being a Bruins fan for the next year. It really will. I saw your conversation from last week too, talking about the 2010s Bruins, and I agreed with your guest about them only getting 1 cup. It feels very similar to the 70s Bruins that only got 2. That, like, I think, my wife, who grew up in Chicago, who is a Blackhawks fan, will never let me really live 2013 down. But that team, if that team wasn't on so many emotional and medical fumes at that point, like, that team winning that cup would have been, I think, a little bit better than the Red Sox winning that World Series in October. Like, it's a hockey town. Like, they would have embraced that team so much, but then they would have probably kept Horton and Lucic a little too long. And like, that 19 team was just, it was bad. The only team that I think would have won a cup was the COVID bubble team.
Yeah.
And I think they were too rusty. And if Tuukka Rask didn't go back, I'll never begrudge a guy for leaving his team to go tend to a sick child. I'll never begrudge him of that. But man, if that doesn't happen, that team probably wins that cup. Probably.
No, you're depressing me. Of course, and
I know.
I was the one with the fatalistic,
I know.
question.
You started it.
Yeah, it's all my fault. All right. So how about the Celtics? And this one, the floor is going to be completely yours because, I know that Jason Tatum was hurt. Jason Tatum was seen at Patriots practice without a walking boot or anything on his leg. So there's the positive spin, and go.
I feel like Jeremy Renner in the town. I'm in the rain. I'm in my leather jacket in Charlestown. Don't give me hope. Don't give me hope. Because I saw that and my thought was, oh man, he could be back after Christmas.
He's fine.
He's fine. He's totally fine. I'm sure they're going to rush him. I'm sure they're going to. I don't want them to, but I'm sure that they will. Here's the thing about the Celtics in next season. I am going to preface this that I am not an NBA economist. Like that CBA is very complicated. It is much more complicated than anything that I had to endure in AP economics in 2005, 2006. Shout out to Bob Piper, history teacher at Westfield High, whose class we all took as seniors, mostly so I think we all could hang out together. But the CBA is crazy. I think of like collective bargaining agreements for sports that have a lot of these different like luxury tax implications. The one that I think of a lot is the baseball CBA that has kind of the luxury tax escalators and like all these different things. The NBA one, it's insane. Like there are aprons. I didn't know that apron was an economic term, but I think by design, the Celtics were always going to trade away Drew Holiday, who I loved. We've talked about this on this very podcast about how much I love Drew Holiday. He's a pro, is just exactly what you want. Like, that's a guy who's, do you want to play point guard? Look at that guy. Look at that guy. He does everything right, just plays hard, plays great defense. And I think they were always going to get rid of, they were always going to get rid of Porzingis too. Just at that cap number, just was not going to be tenable.
And really, his best contribution to the city of Boston was, did you see I think it was the Boston Police Department had the post where they're holding up the Kristaps Porzingis from St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. But what I loved about, like, I loved that team that won the title. Like, that was a fun team. But this year, it is very much the Jaylen Brown, Derek White show. Everything else after that, I do not know. And I look at it like this, that this is their gap year. That they are going to be, they're going to hang around. They're good enough to be a 6, 7, 8 seed. Maybe they get lucky and win a series. Maybe they don't. But I think this was always going to be a year that they take a step back. And then I don't necessarily know what the free agents in 2026 look like. But this certainly feels like this would be a year where they would, take that step back and take a bit of a look at whoever they could bring in. Like I don't think they're going to bring in like a LeBron or a Kevin Durant. A Trae Young at point guard next summer would make some sense. Like, they certainly need a ball handler. It's going to be interesting what they end up doing. I've always sort of thought that they could be a player for Giannis Antetokounmpo. If Giannis ever got sick and tired of playing in a small market like Milwaukee, I have a friend of mine who is a Wisconsin guy, so I should apologize to my buddy Andy for saying this, even though I have for sure threatened him with this multiple times. But I just sort of feel like this year taking a step back is a little bit by design. I wonder if they want to see what young guys they have that they can fuse into this lineup. You got to think that Peyton Pritchard is going to be your point guard full time next year. It's going to be interesting how that workload affects him, instead of being, dynamic spark plug off the bench who is money from half court. But it's going to be an interesting, weird team. I'm kind of excited to see how it shakes out. And I'm kind of interested to see what Joe Mazzulla as a coach with some adversity is like. I want to know how weird post-game he's going to get. Like, is he going to quote Sun Tzu's The Art of War? Is he going to quote, like, I don't know, Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul? I don't know. But I'm really excited to see just where he's going to go and how this is going to affect him. I'm kind of, it's a lot more exciting to me than the Bruins. That's for sure.
Honestly, it feels a lot like it's going to go like Mike McDaniel in Miami.
Yeah.
Where, like, it was kind of fun when he said weird stuff when they were a fun offense who won some games and it looked like they were going somewhere.
Yeah.
I think it's going to just be weird.
It's going to be so weird.
It's just going to be weird stuff when it's, and people are going to lose patience with it once.
Yeah.
Once there's no winning, and then it's just like, why is this weird guy here? Like, what is he contributing? There's a valid question that are both Joe Mazzulla and Alex Cora given a lot of leash for winning championships with stacked teams that a lot of guys could have won championships with.
Maybe. Well, see, I think that's actually a really interesting premise. Because I think Cora has kind of coasted off of 2018. Like that team, even Grady
even got a year
Little-
off out of it. Yeah, like
well, that's a whole different thing. I think even Grady Little couldn't have screwed up 2018. And I think Grady Little is dumb as rocks, but but like it's going to be interesting what this Joe Mazzulla season is going to be like. I have one comp, and this is a comp of a guy. I love the name I'm going to drop because he's just fun and weird, and a lot more fun and weird than Joe Mazzulla is, and that's Mike Leach. is Joe Mazzulla without superstars? NBA Mike Leach. Is he going to start swinging his sword like a pirate and saying weird stuff, and people just being like, "Oh, look at this quirky, fun guy"? I'm only laughing because you're laughing, but I just don't want like Joe Mazzulla to be this caricature, but also a little bit of me wants him to be. I know,
and we both love some Mike Leach. So like this is not we're no disrespect to Mike Leach.
I desperately want Joe Mazzulla to power rank Halloween candy. That's really what I'm saying. I want him to figure out what NBA mascots would win in a Royal Rumble. I also want that. I don't want everything. I just want Joe Mazzulla being weird and fun.
You know, but Joe Mazzulla could also be weird and not fun. Like he could also be the guy
it's
who
negligible,
gives out,
yeah.
He also could be the weird guy who gives out boxes of raisins on Halloween.
You know, he did play for another weird coach in Bob Huggins in college, which look, the Huggins Leach like line is a fine line, but you hope he's more Mike Leach and less Bob Huggins. Like I feel like Joe Mazzulla in those old sweatsuits, terrible idea. But like as curmudgeonly as Mike Leach always was, I don't know. Could be a fit.
All right, we're rapidly approaching 2 hours here.
I know.
So we're gonna move on to our last thing, which is our favorite or maybe not our favorite, but the non-New England sports storyline that has really piqued our interest right now.
Okay. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Ahead.
Because this is your house. All right,
No,
I will go.
after you.
I will go. So I woke up Saturday morning. I was watching TikToks like I normally do, kind of before I go to work. And one showed up with the old Sports Center graphics package and music. Like, I got a fever, and the only prescription is more dang saxophone music package and graphics package. And then I hear a familiar voice from my youth. A familiar voice is that of Rich Eisen. Rich Eisen hosting SportsCenter on Sunday night is one of it did an exennial like myself's heart some good. When I was a kid, my dream job, I wanted to be a SportsCenter anchor, like my two favorite anchors, Rich Eisen and Stuart Scott, because their jobs seemed really fun, and sports are fun, and SportsCenter should be fun. It shouldn't be so self-serious or like driven by sales metrics or anything. It should be fun. And the old school SportsCenter used to be really fun. I met Rich Eisen once at the Greater Hartford Open. It was 1998 or 99. We used to go, me and my brother Drew and my parents, We used to go on the Tuesday of the Greater Hartford Open week, which would be the Pro-Am week, and all of the Sports Center guys would go down to Cromwell and would participate in the Pro-Am, and then you could meet them afterwards. They did like a little speaking engagement, and then you could get autographs and things. And so my brother and I, the first person we went to was Rich Eisen. He was the guy. And we went, and we had a good Sharpie. My mom, as a teacher, always had the really good markers. So we had the really good Sharpies to get autographs, and Rich Eisen was like, all right, boys, you've got the good marker. I'm good. You guys have to stay with me. I'm going to sign all these autographs. Don't worry. I'm going to make sure you meet everybody else. You guys have to be my marker caddies. My brother and I look at each other and we go, okay. And so we go and do this. And like, he was just so nice. Like, so after, like, he had us meet Stuart Scott right away. And Stuart Scott, for some of your listeners who don't know who Stuart Scott is, he was a SportsCenter anchor, and years later, I was out of college by this point, had died of cancer, but he was the cool guy. He literally had a catchphrase that was cooler than the other side of the pillow. Think about that.
It's one I still use every now and then.
I still do too. It's great. It's perfect and so 90s, but also like delivered with like this cool, like, Stuart Scott.
I'm nowhere near as cool as he was when he would deliver it.
Same. And like, but we had also met John Butchergross, who was young and was the hockey guy. I think Steve Levy was there, and we like that had all happened. And then at the end of that goes, you boys want to meet Boomer? What? Berman? He goes, yeah, let me go introduce you. And he introduced us to Chris Berman. And for a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, Rich Eisen was the coolest dude to just like let us meet all of these guys. I'm now 37 going on 38, and hearing that voice and hearing that music and watching a Sports Center delivered the way that it was, it just kind of did my heart some good. And like, I hope with the ESPN NFL Network merger and Eisen doing more stuff for ESPN, I hope they still do that. You know, if the peak of this is that they have joint sports centers with he and Scott Van Pelt after like Monday Night Football or after big games, I hope they just keep doing that. And man, oh man, if I can recommend one thing to your viewers too, on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube, there's like a 20-minute clip of him on his radio show talking about the production stuff of getting Sunday Night Sports Center Monday Night Sports Center, done and made, with all of those different production things and the tribute to Stuart Scott in the show and all of these different things. If you grew up watching Sports Center in the 90s, I wholeheartedly recommend you go and watch this clip. It'll do you some good.
Man, I should have gone first. Because following that up, and just a lot of the things that you're talking about, one of the things that I remember from my youth was when I was attending Wilbraham Munson Academy. There was one semester or trimester, because they were on a trimester system, where I had a class first period and then a free period second period. And me and a buddy of mine would get out of our first period class and we'd go down, and they had this snack bar called the Spa.
Okay.
Sounds a lot cooler than it actually was, but it was, we would each like get a donut from the snack bar, and they had, they had the pinball machines and the Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, and then at the end of it was some couches and a TV. And so we'd take our for me it was always the Boston cream donut, sit down there on the couch, and we turn on Sports Center. And that old school Sports Center, you're absolutely right. It hit all the right notes. It was just like the perfect, like, it was the perfect blend of info and fun, and it was just so good. And so that's a lasting memory for me. And anytime that you can recapture a little bit of that, it's great. So
it scratches a good itch, right?
It does. Yeah, absolutely. So I you sent me that clip of Rich Eisen, and I've watched a couple of other things. The tribute to Stuart Scott, was great. And yeah, it just it hit all the right notes. So I like you said, I hope that they're able to continue doing some things like that. And just in general, I wish that that sports media wasn't what it is at this point. Like I literally do not listen to sports talk radio anymore because of what it's just like it literally takes the fun out of being a fan.
Yeah.
And just like with so many other things, it's somebody telling you what you should think about this, instead of like seeing it for yourself. And and there are plenty of great professionals out there who are telling you, basically teaching you what you've seen and putting it in some kind of context for you that's still really valuable. And there's a fun aspect to that.
Yeah.
Learning more about what you're watching. So much of this other stuff, it's driven on this, like, basically this addiction to rage that we have. And it's just like, that's not what sports is supposed to be about. So like, even when I'm talking about the disappointment that I have in the Red Sox off season, I'm past like getting mad about that stuff, because like, it's just like, yeah, there's still a lot to like about watching baseballs,
Yeah.
So
sports are fun.
It should be.
They're fun.
They are. They are fun, and don't lose sight of that. Turn off, not trying to, have an impact on anybody's livelihood or anything, but
right.
Turn off the radio once in a while, and just enjoy what you're watching. So
yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to be I'm going to be brief here with mine. I'm just so intrigued by the rest of the league in the NFL, with where all of these veteran quarterbacks like all the shifting of veteran quarterbacks. Like, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, with the Steelers. I mean, that Giants room is just like insane.
Talk about
I would love
vibes, right? It's
I would love to be a
vibes,
fly
but
in the
it's
wall
vibes.
in that, right? Geno Smith and in with the Raiders with Pete, Daniel Jones, we talked about a little bit earlier with the Colts. There are a lot. It's funny because there are a lot of these teams that, like, because of what like Sam Darnold did last year, who also changed teams. He took Geno's spot and with the Seahawks. Is like teams are trying to like recapture that. It's just like, so like Shane Steichen has basically hitched his career wagon to Daniel Jones at this point, and it's just like stuff like that is so interesting to me. I understand something like, the Steelers and Mike Tomlin going after Aaron Rodgers, because that feels like one of the hottest seats in sports right now.
Is Aaron Rodgers gonna be enough to potentially unsee Mike Tomlin from that job.
I mean,
I'm gonna ask
maybe.
it. Someone has to.
We'll have to review. Yeah, we'll mark the tape on that, and we'll have to go back and review that later. But yeah, so like to me, it's so fascinating. Like, you know, there's been a lot of movement of these. You know, some of them have had. What is Kirk Cousins doing now? I mean, I think he's with
still in Atlanta, right?
No, I thought that he was gone from Atlanta. Hold on, let me.
No, he's still in Atlanta.
Is he?
Because hold on, Chris. Before you get on the Google machine, who is the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns right now?
Joe Flacco. That's
right. Why do they need Kirk Cousins when they have a Kirk Cousins at home? Why? Why?
Okay, I guess yeah. For some reason, I thought that he had been moved, but
where would be a fun Kirk Cousins landing spot though? Because I have one in my head.
They'd never do it, but New Orleans.
I was going to say the Rams.
Oh, that.
Because Stafford's in that weird, like, holistic health cube.
Yeah, but they've got Jimmy G, don't they? Is he still with them?
Did you say that to like instill confidence in the Rams quarterback room?
I mean, is it any worse than Kirk Cousins? I mean, did you see Kirk Cousins play football last year?
It wasn't great, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that team could just use some like Kohl's cash, khakis. That's what I feel like they could use.
Fair enough. All right, sir.
It's going to be weird and fun because one of those weird veterans is going to do something awesome. I just don't know who it is. I'm not betting on it being Aaron Rodgers. I don't know.
So at what point is Jameis Winston starting games for the New York Giants?
Oh boy. I'm going to look at their schedule.
At the schedule? That's a good.
I'm going to do this. This is going to be. I think this is the prudent way to answer this question. I don't want it to be like third quarter of week 1 because that just seems mean. That seems mean to. That seems mean to Mr. Dangerous or whatever or Mr. Was it Mr. Dangerous? What was the Russell Wilson?
Danger Russ. Yes.
Danger Russ. Okay. Week 1 Commanders. No. Week 2 Cowboys. Week 3 Chiefs. Okay. I'm going to tell you exactly where I think this is. And honestly, I think you're going to agree with me. On Sunday, October 5th, the Giants play the New Orleans Saints at 1 p.m. I feel like if the Giants get their teeth kicked in by the Los Angeles Chargers and the Fighting Harbaughs, I think a homecoming game. Is it at New Orleans? It is at New Orleans.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston takes over.
That's what I.
Or do they just say screw it and just play Jackson Dart? I want it to be Jameis. I feel like we're Jameis guys on this podcast. Like, he's fun and weird. Like, that would have been a much better backup quarterback option for the Patriots. I'm going to die on that hill. Jameis Winston, New England Patriot, would have been one of the most fun things to happen sports-wise to me in the year of our Lord 2025.
You know what? I enjoy Jameis Winston when he's on other teams. I don't think that I'd necessarily have a lot of patience for him on the New England Patriots.
But he's got the
That's just me.
LASIK now. He got the LASIK now. It's fine.
It's all
That
better.
30 year well behind him. His eyes are good now.
All right, sir. On that note, I thank you once again for joining me. This was a blast. We kept it under 2.5 hours. So we're getting there.
This feels good. I'm fine with the output we put in. I'm fine with it.
And we covered all 4 of the major New England sports franchises, and then
we got
some.
through all of my notes.
Look at that.
I didn't strike through them.
Look how prepared this man is.
Look at that. That's a
Very
heck of a
nice.
scroll. Yeah. Sweet.
All right. Well, hey, thanks very much, sir. I hope you have a great night. And just one more thing. More likely to be playing in the fourth quarter of the game. Now, we're talking about this on Wednesday. For those who aren't watching the live stream, this episode comes out after the game. But who is playing in the fourth quarter, deeper into the fourth quarter? Kyle Duggar or Anthony Jennings?
Kyle Duggar.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah.
Though, it may be neck and neck,
It's going to be close, but I think it's going to be Duggar. I do.
Duggar's going to return a kick in the fourth quarter. That's my bold prediction for the Thursday night football preseason game for the New England Patriots.
I like it. It's going to be interesting.
All right, sir. Thanks a lot.
Of course.
Well, thank you for joining me and Greg on this. Well, like I said, it wasn't a marathon, but a half marathon is still an endurance test for sure. This was a great episode. I think we talked about a lot. We still left a lot of meat on the bones. I'd love to have him come back and, rehash some more things later on. But man, always a great time when Greg and I get together to talk sports. We don't always have aligning positions on things, but that's what makes it even better. I also want to thank everybody who has been listening and supporting us. Now, when you listen, you can also help out by saying, hey, I just listened to this. It's really great. Word of mouth is really the best way to get more people interested and aware of this podcast. Another way is leaving a rating or review on your favorite podcatcher, which makes us more visible to other people when they're going through their respective podcast services. And the more people that we can reach, the more people can join this community that we're building. And it really is. We really want to build a community. So you can connect with us as well on social media. We've got the Maza's Musings podcast Facebook page. We are on Instagram, Threads, and Twitter at Maza's Musings Pod. We are on TikTok at Maza's Musings Podcast. We're also on Blue Sky. And we have a YouTube channel, which is growing. So please like and subscribe, subscribe to the YouTube page. The last couple of episodes, we've actually done some live streams. So you can get kind of like a sneak peek at some of the stuff that's going to be in the podcast. Another way to get a sneak peek on stuff in the podcast is to sign up for our newsletter. You can go to mazasmusings.wordpress.com. And while you're looking at past episodes, more information about me and this podcast, you can click on that little subscribe button and you will get in your inbox information on upcoming episodes, what you might have missed, and other cool stuff. Like a lot of times I'll let you know about contests and sweepstakes or other news that I think is really cool. And If you want to take your support one step further, you can always buy us a blue milk. There's a link on the website for that as well. And that's just a small way to help us with some of the, monetary costs that there are with putting this podcast together. However you are supporting, whether it is buying us blue milk or just listening and telling your friends, we appreciate it all. And I hope you have a great weekend and a great week. For the Maza's Musings podcast is brought to you by Hi Dad Soup. Check them out at Mickey and Minutes on Instagram.